My name is Richard Monroe, and the day my ex-wife's will was read, everything I thought I knew about the past 15 years turned inside out. I was 66, retired, and living a quiet life in Casper, Wyoming. Nothing fancy, just a modest apartment, a second-hand Honda, and the occasional crossword puzzle I never finished. That afternoon, I was mopping up a spilled cup of coffee when the call came through. The voice on the line was from a law firm I didn't recognize. Someone named Grace Milton from Milton and Hall, based in Cheyenne. "Mr. Monroe," she said, her voice carefully professional. "I'm calling in regard to Cassandra Elaine Monroe." Just hearing her full name made my chest tighten. "What about her?" I asked, bracing myself. "I regret to inform you that Ms. Monroe passed away 3 days ago. Her funeral is scheduled for Friday afternoon at Roseview Chapel, and there will be a reading of the will following the service." I didn't say anything at first. Cassandra and I had been divorced for over 15 years. We hadn't spoken since the paperwork was finalized, and yet the news hit me like a falling brick. Why are you calling me?" I asked. "You were listed among her personal contacts," Grace said. "And you're named in the will." I laughed, bitter and confused. "That can't be right. We split everything clean. I haven't seen a dime from her since the settlement." "Well, nonetheless," she said, not missing a beat, "you're requested to attend the reading. It's scheduled for 4:30 Friday afternoon, after the service." I mumbled a promise to be there and hung up. For a few minutes I just sat in my kitchen, staring at the floor, the mop still dripping. The voice of my upstairs neighbor was still muffled through the ceiling. She was always yelling about something, but it all sounded far away now. I couldn't believe Cassandra was gone. The last time I saw her, she was striding out of a courtroom in a navy blue blazer and a jaw set like concrete. She'd changed since the day we met, become colder, sharper, like a blade honed by ambition. She hadn't always been like that. I remembered a different version of her, one from the fall of 1985. She was standing outside the Civic Center in Jackson Hole, arguing with a security guard about access to a business seminar that hadn't allowed women past the registration desk. "You're telling me women can't attend because we might distract the speakers?" she'd said, her voice steady but fierce. "That's the most ridiculous thing I've heard this week." She was fire, dressed in a scarlet coat and with dark curls that bounced every time she turned. I was across the street, waiting for a taxi, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. That's how we met. Later that night, I found her business card crumpled in my coat pocket. It took 3 days of nerves to call her. She answered with, "Cassandra Monroe, what can I do for you?" "I saw you outside the Civic Center. I thought you were amazing." To my surprise, she laughed. A real laugh, not a polite one. "Are you asking me out or hiring me as a consultant?" she asked. "Maybe both." We were married the following spring. I was working as an electrical technician for the local grid. She was still trying to get her consulting company off the ground. Our first apartment was tiny, always too cold or too hot. But we were happy in those days. Dinner was mac and cheese and frozen peas. Nights were spent dreaming about what we might become. When our son Marcus was born, we thought we had it all. He had her spark and my quiet persistence. But the closer Cassandra got to success, the more she drifted. She was brilliant. There was no denying it. Within 10 years, she'd built her consultancy firm into a statewide giant. Clients from oil, mining, and finance industries lined up at her door. But as her business grew, our marriage shrank. We used to argue about the simplest things: school lunches, vacation plans, even what color to paint the kitchen. But it was never really about those things. It was about time, priorities. Her company started swallowing everything: weekends, birthdays, even Marcus's school events. One year she missed his science fair because she was closing a deal in Salt Lake. When I brought it up, she brushed me off. "You don't understand what's at stake, Richard. This contract could triple our earnings." I bit my tongue. Not because I agreed, but because I'd already said it too many times. He's our son, not a shareholder. When Marcus turned 7, she bought him a computer more advanced than anything I'd ever touched at work. "He's got to think ahead," she told me. "We're raising the next CEO." "I thought we were raising a kid," I muttered. She didn't laugh. Our house on Alder Ridge was enormous. 3-car garage, heated floors, the kind of kitchen you see in cooking shows. But it didn't feel like home anymore. There were catered parties with local elites, wine tastings with investment brokers. I started feeling like an employee at my own dinner table. And Marcus, he adapted faster than I could. By age 10, he could talk about corporate mergers better than baseball. By 12, he had no patience for anything ordinary. By 14, he refused to go camping with me, said it was a waste of potential. I started to feel like a relic. His 15th birthday was the turning point. I wanted a simple cookout in the backyard with his school friends. Cassandra wanted a formal reception at the country club, with business partners, brand sponsorships, and a jazz quartet. That night, I told her, "You're throwing a fundraiser, not a birthday party." She gave me a look I hadn't seen before. Cold, calculating. "Marcus needs connections. This is the world he'll inherit. We don't have the luxury of pretending it's 1975. But he's still a boy. No, he's a product of this century. He needs to be prepared." Prepared for what? To forget his childhood. The party was extravagant. Ice sculptures, valet parking, gift bags worth more than my last paycheck. Marcus was the perfect host, smiling on cue, shaking hands, answering tech-related questions like a future executive. But I caught him once, standing by the pool alone, watching everyone laugh and clink champagne glasses. "You okay?" I asked. He snapped out of it. "Sure, Dad. I'm fine." But I saw it. That flicker of uncertainty. The child still inside him, buried under all the expectations. That night, I realized something. Cassandra wasn't raising a son anymore. She was molding a legacy. And in the process, she was erasing both of us. It didn't fall apart overnight. That's not how these things happen. Our marriage wore down like an old engine, still running, but with a constant grinding beneath every moment. I became quieter, more withdrawn. Cassandra became sharper, more efficient. When Marcus entered high school, the distance between us was already a chasm. He stopped asking me for advice, stopped including me in conversations that weren't logistical. "What time's dinner? Can I borrow the car? Where's my charger?" At 17, he was already a version of her. Focused. Untouchable. And when I suggested he look into apprenticeships, or maybe even trade school, he looked at me like I'd asked him to shovel coal. "I'm not settling, Dad. I'm not you." Those words burned deeper than I cared to admit. By his senior year, Cassandra was working 90-hour weeks on an expansion project into 4 Western states. When she missed Marcus's graduation for a once-in-a-lifetime contract negotiation, I finally broke. "You can't keep doing this," I told her that night. You've missed every major moment in that kid's life, and now he's too old to care." She didn't even flinch, just kept scrolling through her phone. "I'm building a future for him, Richard. One with power, wealth, influence. At what cost?" She finally looked up. "You think your steady job and weekend fishing trips prepared him for the real world?" "No," I said, "but they gave him a father." 6 months later, we signed the divorce papers. She kept everything: the Alder Ridge house, the company, most of our savings. I got the old bungalow we used to rent out, and a bank account that would last me if I lived modestly. We barely spoke during the proceedings. Even Marcus didn't say much. When he left for business school in Denver, he stopped returning my calls. His mother had become his entire world. I was a placeholder in an outdated chapter of his life. "You hold him back," he told me once. "All your talk of simplicity and principle, it's toxic. You don't get how things work now." Maybe I didn't. But I knew what it meant to show up, to be present, to love without conditions. Apparently, that counted for less than I thought. The years passed. I repaired boilers part-time, volunteered at the senior center. I took up woodworking to fill the long, empty afternoons. Occasionally, I'd see Cassandra's name in business journals, always accompanied by words like visionary, pioneer, icon. And Marcus? He rose through the ranks at her firm like a rocket. I stayed out of their way. They didn't need me. That much was clear, so when Grace Milton called me about the funeral, I didn't know what to think. Why now? Why would she want me there after all these years? I almost didn't go. But something told me I had to. Friday arrived with a cold wind and gray skies. I put on the only suit I owned, one I hadn't worn since a wedding 5 years ago. The tie felt like a noose. The drive to Roseview Chapel took just under an hour. As I approached, I saw sleek luxury cars lining the entrance: Mercedes, Audis, and at least 2 Teslas. My old Honda wheezed into a spot between a Porsche and a Lexus. The contrast was laughable. Inside, the chapel was filled with over 200 people, business people, reporters, city officials. Every seat was taken by someone who knew Cassandra as the CEO, the empire builder, the genius. Not as the woman who once burned toast and cried during old sitcom reruns. I tried to slip quietly into a back pew, but the whispers followed me like a tide. "Is that him? Her ex-husband? I heard he left with a payout and never looked back. She carried him for years." I kept my head down. Then I heard the voice I'd dreaded. "Unbelievable. Marcus." Now 37, he walked down the aisle like he owned it. He was taller, leaner, dressed in a tailored black suit that probably cost more than my car. His dark hair was slicked back, and he had Cassandra's sharp cheekbones and intense eyes. "What are you doing here?" he asked, loud enough for heads to turn. I stood, trying to stay calm. "I came to pay my respects." "You lost that right when you walked out." "She asked for me to be here," I said, though I didn't know if it was true. Marcus stepped closer, his voice low and venomous. "You don't belong in this room. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'll stay in the back. I'll leave right after." He didn't answer, just stared, jaw tight, fists clenched. Then he turned to the crowd like a politician at a press conference. "I apologize for the disruption," he said loudly. "My father seems to have forgotten that divorce means you're not family." There were a few quiet chuckles, nods. I felt my face flush, but I didn't move. Not this time. You embarrassed her when she was alive, Marcus said. Don't do it again now that she's gone. I wanted to reply, to explain, to remind him of who I'd once been to her, to him. But I knew nothing I said would matter. Not here, not now. So I sat down. The service started. Cassandra was praised as a trailblazer, a leader, a woman who defied odds and rewrote rules. Her life was described in bullet points: acquisitions, awards, charitable donations. No one mentioned the woman who used to hum while folding laundry, or who once spent a week perfecting a pecan pie recipe. Afterward, I waited for the chapel to clear out. I didn't want another confrontation with Marcus or anyone else. But just as I was slipping out the side door, a man in a tailored suit approached me. "Mr. Monroe?" he asked, extending a hand. "I'm Adam Green from Milton and Hall. I'll be handling the reading of the will. Could I have a moment of your time?" Adam Green led me and Marcus into his office a few blocks from the chapel. It was the kind of place that whispered power: heavy wood furniture, framed certificates, leather chairs too stiff to be comfortable. Marcus sat confidently at the head of the small conference table. I took the seat off to the side, unsure why I was even included in this. "Let's begin," Adam said, flipping open a navy-bound folder. "This is the last will and testament of Cassandra Elaine Monroe, signed and witnessed on April 3rd of last year." Marcus folded his arms and gave a polite nod, like he'd done this 100 times before. He clearly expected this to be a formality, a confirmation of what he already believed, that the company, the assets, the empire were now his. Adam adjusted his glasses. To her son, Marcus Richard Monroe, Cassandra leaves the home on Alder Ridge Drive, including all interior property, and a direct cash transfer of $500,000 from her primary account. Marcus nodded again, smiling slightly. $500,000 plus the house. Not a bad start. "And her business holdings?" he asked casually. "The firm?" Adam didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned the page and continued reading. "The inheritance to Marcus Monroe is contingent upon his continued employment with Monroe Consulting Group for a minimum of 2 years, or until the company is sold or dissolved." Marcus's smile faltered. "Wait, what do you mean sold? Who's selling it?" Adam glanced briefly at me. "I'm getting to that." "What does that mean, sold or dissolved?" Marcus repeated, a sharpness now in his voice. "These are Cassandra's words," Adam said calmly. "Please allow me to continue." Marcus sat back, frowning. Adam turned another page. "Now for the remaining disposition of assets." I shifted in my seat, uncomfortable. I fully expected some symbolic gesture. A book from the old house, a photo album, maybe a letter. Something sentimental but small. Cassandra was not the kind of woman to give away anything lightly, especially not to an ex-husband. Adam looked directly at me. "To my former husband, Richard Allen Monroe," he read, "I leave the sum of $33.5 million to be distributed from my investment accounts and managed assets." The room went silent. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Marcus blinked rapidly. "What?" Adam continued without looking up. "Additionally, I bequeath to Richard Monroe 65% controlling interest in Monroe Consulting Group, including all subsidiaries, properties, and business holdings. He is to be appointed chairman of the board of directors." I think I forgot how to sit upright. Marcus shot to his feet, sending his chair scraping across the wood floor. No, that's not. This has to be a mistake." "There is no mistake," Adam said firmly. Cassandra reviewed every clause herself, down to the punctuation. This is fraud, Marcus shouted. You, he pointed at me, his finger shaking. You did something. You manipulated her, got to her when she was weak. I haven't spoken to her in over a decade, I said, barely able to form the words. You expect me to believe that? That she just gave you the company she built? She did, Adam interjected. And there are medical assessments confirming she was of sound mind and under no external pressure when she finalized this will. Marcus was trembling now, face pale, voice cracking. No, I don't accept this. Adam remained calm. Whether you accept it or not, these are her final legal instructions. Marcus looked at me as if I had just stolen his entire life. But I hadn't taken anything. I hadn't even asked for this. I was as shocked as he was. The silence in the room was suffocating. Marcus paced the floor like a caged animal. I stayed in my chair, too stunned to speak. I felt like I'd been handed someone else's fate. Not wealth, not revenge, but something heavier. A responsibility I never asked for. This is criminal, Marcus hissed. She was manipulated. She was sick. You got to her when she was vulnerable. Adam cleared his throat and opened a second envelope from the file. Cassandra anticipated this reaction. She asked me to read a personal letter to both of you after the will was disclosed. Marcus scoffed. A letter? Seriously? But he sat down. Adam unfolded the thick stationery and began reading in a quiet, steady voice. My dearest Richard, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. And knowing you, you're sitting there stunned, wondering what the hell I was thinking. You probably spilled your coffee, didn't you? I can see the look on your face, confused but trying not to show it. A strange sound escaped me. A half laugh, half sob. That was exactly what I'd done. I know this is unexpected, and I know you don't believe you deserve any of this. But you do, Richard. You always did. You tried to keep our family together. You fought for the simple things. Dinner as a family, Marcus's baseball games, balance. And I forgot all that. I let the business become my identity. And when you begged me to stop, I called you small-minded. I wasn't angry at you. I was angry at myself for not being able to slow down. I chose ambition, and I lost something more valuable than money. I lost you. My hands trembled in my lap. I couldn't look up. I built an empire, Richard, but I also built walls, and those walls kept Marcus from seeing the kind of man you are. That's why I left the company to you. Marcus sat frozen. His face had drained of all color. Marcus, my brilliant son, I know you're furious right now. I know you believe this is a betrayal. But sweetheart, you're not ready. You've never had to struggle. Never had to ask what kind of man you are without my name behind you. You've learned how to lead a boardroom, but not how to lose and rebuild. I'm not punishing you. I'm giving you a chance to find your own strength. You'll be fine. You're smart and capable, but you need space to grow. Space not overshadowed by inheritance. Adam's voice softened for the final paragraph. Richard, this isn't just money. It's a chance to do something good, something lasting. I trust you, not because you're a businessman, but because you're a decent man. You always were. Cassandra. Adam folded the letter and slid it toward me. She asked that you keep the original. I took it with shaking hands. Marcus turned his face away, staring at the wall like he could force it not to exist. She left me nothing. he whispered. Adam shook his head. She left you $500,000 and a house worth nearly $1 million. She left me nothing that mattered, he snapped, his voice cracking. Marcus shot to his feet, fury overtaking grief. This isn't over, he growled. I'm contesting the will, fraud, coercion, mental incompetence. I want every medical record, every signature verified, every detail investigated. Adam didn't flinch. Your mother anticipated that. She underwent multiple psychological evaluations, voluntarily, and included them with the documents. All confirm she was perfectly of sound mind. She wouldn't do this, Marcus said, his voice wild now. She built that company with her blood. She built it for me. No, I said softly. She built it because that's who she was. She left it to me because she finally remembered who we used to be. Marcus turned on me like a storm. You think this makes you a hero? You think just because she gave you a company you never helped build, that erases what happened, that makes you important again? No, I replied quietly, rising to my feet. It doesn't make me important, but it gives me a chance to do something meaningful. Marcus laughed bitterly. You're a retired electrician, Dad. What the hell do you know about running a global firm? Not much, I admitted, but I know what it means to show up, to listen, to put people before profit. Maybe that's what she wanted back in her company. He looked away, jaw clenched, eyes rimmed with frustration and something deeper, maybe shame. You never deserved her, he muttered, and you sure as hell don't deserve this. Maybe not, I said, but I didn't ask for it, and I'm not giving it back just to protect your ego. Silence followed. Adam began collecting the documents with measured, deliberate calm. The board will expect a meeting by next week, he said. I'll help facilitate the transition. Marcus didn't say a word. As I moved toward the door, I paused beside him. She didn't do this to you, Marcus. She did it for you. She saw a chance to free you from her shadow. Maybe it's time you step out of it. He didn't respond. I walked out of that office a different man than the one who'd entered. Not because of the money or the title, but because, for the first time in decades, I felt seen. Not as a burden or a relic or a mistake, but as someone who mattered, someone worth remembering. I didn't sleep much that night. The letter stayed beside me on the kitchen table, folded neatly, as if it might whisper her voice again if I just stared long enough. I read it 4 times. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I wanted to remember every word. She'd forgiven me. And more than that, she still loved me. Not with flowers or second chances, but with something bigger, understanding. She saw me even after all those years, and chose to leave me the one thing I'd never had from her since the divorce: trust. The next morning, I walked through my quiet neighborhood. The world looked unchanged, but I knew better. The weight of $33.5 million and controlling interest in a company wasn't just a gift. It was a burden, and one I couldn't ignore. I wasn't going to sell it. I wasn't going to cash out. I was going to learn it. The company didn't need another ruthless CEO. It needed someone who remembered what people looked like before they were seen as assets. Someone who could rebuild what had been lost, not just in strategy meetings, but in break rooms, in holiday bonuses, in the way people spoke about leadership behind closed doors. And Marcus? I didn't know if he'd ever speak to me again. Maybe one day, when the anger burned off and only the ache remained, he'd read her letter again, really read it, and maybe he'd finally hear what she meant. Until then, I would carry her message for both of us. Justice, I realized, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in ink on a page, in a folded letter from someone who never forgot who you were, even after everything went wrong. Cassandra didn't just give me her company. She gave me back myself. And now, it's my turn to prove she was right. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.